wanting. Even with my glasses on, with all this information in front of me, something must be wrong.
We'll begin shortly. My name is Glenn Lesko, and I am Marg's nephew. On behalf of Marg, Mickey, Brian, and their families, the family welcome you this afternoon to the celebration of Wayne Redlick's life. The song you just heard is called Tulum. This song has special meaning to the family, specifically the words, "Have you been to Tulum? I hear it's nice there." When Marg and Wayne listened to this song, they would ask each other, "Have you ever been to Tulum? I hear it's nice there." This is when the refrain played, they said, "We should go there sometime." When Wayne was sick and listened to this song, the words they shared represented a special moment to them. Please be seated. Every person in this room has fond memories of Wayne Redlick. Many of us remember Wayne's unique sense of humor, perspective on life, and many of us have been ribbed by him incessantly over the years, including myself. Years ago, when my wife Bridget and I were trying to convince Marg to cross the line from white to red wine, we arranged for a multi-vineyard wine tasting with Marg and Wayne. Secretly, Wayne didn't drink, so I had a DD. It was perfect. Wayne wasn't a fan of wine, much less red wine, and our first stop was to a gorgeous vineyard, sweeping views of the Okanagan Valley. A pretentious sommelier walked us through the tasting, as Wayne would say, a very uppity place. Bridget and I convinced Wayne to at least play along and try the wine. You can imagine that was very difficult to do. And Wayne agreed, as he's a good sport, and as instructed, swirled the wine in the glass, looked at the color, and took a sip. We all held our breath, wondering what comment was going to come from Wayne, because we knew he had an amazing sense of humor. The sommelier, Marg, Bridget, and I waited. Wayne finally said, in only the way Wayne could say, "This shit isn't that bad." Whoa. Unknown to the sommelier, this was high praise for the wine from Wayne Redlick. We all have memories of those, but that's one that stood out to my wife and I. I'd like to introduce 4 special people. Many years ago, 4 summer students met Wayne. They were 16 to 17. These 4 young men have kept in touch with Wayne since then, and over the years, and often sought out advice and mentorship from Wayne, and as Wayne would always do, give them the best counsel he could. Wayne was proud of them and embraced them like family, as Wayne does and did to everyone. Tim Taves, Brad Stulke, Jeff Kazikoff, and Andy Seepuck. Please come up and speak to Wayne on behalf of your life.
Well, thank you, Glenn. So just some clarification. One of the gentlemen here did come up as a summer student. The rest of us, it was really just right out of high school or whatever high school we took. We ended up working at a company called Wayne Oilfield Services. I'm Tim Taves, by the way. And you know, it was a very interesting time. It was in the early 80s. And boy, things were hopping in the Grand Prairie and the Peace River country. And, you know, listening to these gentlemen behind me and some of the stories they had, and there were some overarching themes that came through from each of us. And I know several of them are going to share some stories. And I'm going to share here a few things of our early years, and then I think Andy and Jeff may share some things, and then I'll come back and share some things kind of towards the end of our time and our careers and the influence that Wayne had on us, which was tremendous. So, like Glenn said, Wayne took a real interest in each of us. And coming off a farm, I had done some heavy equipment operating, but the maintenance side of operations and the oil patch was very new to me. So I started with this company, working for them, and I remember Wayne distinctively. He was a young guy, and I thought, man, for as young as he is, he sure knows a lot of stuff. And so we would often seek his advice. In fact, there were times when we would look forward to, if we'd come in the morning, boy, if we were assigned to Wayne's truck, that was a good thing. We really enjoyed that, and we learned lots. And you know, Wayne always, at that point, he had this GMC dark blue GMC diesel truck. And he always seemed to have the latest music. He was up on music, it seemed. He also liked things done well, and how we could tell was that blue truck, when we would come to work in the morning, it was spotless, inside and out. And not only that, but he always had a big jug of Armor Guard behind the seat, and a rag or two. And if you weren't doing something, you'd see him spraying that dash and making it really clean, and you know, so we could tell some things about Wayne. The other thing was his toolbox. Boy, you know, every tool had its place. And I remember too, and even he had put some material on the back, so when you're driving, those pipe wrenches and stuff wouldn't make a lot of noise, that they were, you know, so you could tell from that right away what type of an individual he was, and his expectations. You know, and so he had high expectations. I would almost, consider him a perfectionist, in a good sense. And so he had those same ideals, and not only for him, but those that worked for him. But the thing about Wayne that just was tremendous is he was the type of individual who would give you every tool possible to be successful. So even though he was your boss and he had high expectations, his goal was to make you successful and to succeed. And you know, I think that was one thing that for us was very attractive. And you know, I found those earlier years, that was one thing for me that made that job something that I looked forward to in the day. And not that the others working there, I didn't, you know, I worked with other people there, they were all good. I worked with these three characters, and that may have been a bit of the challenge at the time, but you know, we managed to get along and get the work done. And so you know, it was good. With his work ethic, I guess my thought is that with this demand, the work that he got done was perfect. And if it wasn't right, he made sure it was right. And so, you know, we as individuals, you know, we all moved on and extended careers in the oil industry. I think, yeah, we all did. But you know, any success we may have had was certainly influenced by Wayne's example in those early years. Those early years were really molded us in a way that I think allowed us to have some success later on. So, anyways.
So hello, everyone. I met Wayne. I came out here from Eastern Canada as a summer student. I was living in the Airport Inn, and Wayne and Marg would invite me for dinner because I think they felt like eating McDonald's every night wasn't really that good of an idea, but took me on right away. I was a young guy. I worked for a number of years. It's what I really remember about Wayne. I've been fortunate. Through my whole career, I got to work with Wayne early. When Wayne was sick the first time, when he got better, he came and worked with me for a number of years. I could always count on that everything was going to get done right and everybody was taken care of. And the one thing I really appreciated about Wayne was once a week he would stop at my office, we'd sit down, and I knew I was going to be late for dinner. We would talk, Wayne would tell me everything that's right with the industry and everything that's wrong with the industry, and we would agree, and he would hold me, he would make me commit to making sure I only did the right things. So I always really appreciate that. But the one thing I'm going to remember Wayne about is when my wife Catherine came out from Ontario, we had our first daughter. Wayne and Marg had the shower at their house for our daughter. And I was bugging Catherine the other day because I looked up the pictures we had. And Wayne, when we got there, Wayne took Carolyn. And I had 12 pictures of Wayne with Carolyn. We only had 2 other pictures of that shower. And other than that, Wayne had her the whole time. And he did that all the time. And 2 years later, he took her snowmobiling. She's in her 30s now. She remembers Wayne fondly. She hasn't seen him in a while. So for me, I learned a lot from Wayne from work, but learned a lot about being a dad and being a good person from him. So Marg, I have a couple of pictures here if you want to see them after, if you'd like them. I brought them for you, but thank you for letting me speak. Thank you.
Hi, how you doing? My first meeting with Wayne was at Wayland, of course. In fact, my very first day in the oil field was working with him. And so I was green. I'd never knew anything about it. And I had to go with him. And I think he was a little upset that he had to go with me. But so anyway, we were going to go, and I think we had to change a valve. So I didn't really know what a valve was. But so anyway, it was at this place called South Block down in Wapiti, and I think Glenn probably knows that very well there. But anyway, so Wayne says, well, I know a shortcut we're going to take, and it was on the middle of the springtime, worst road conditions ever, and we get about 25 miles in there and not a soul around, and we get stuck, and I mean stuck, bad. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. In those days, there was no phones or anything, and we had an old XJ radio, couldn't get out. So it was just him and I there all day trying to get out. And we tried a number of different things, and finally, after about 7 or 8 hours, we got out. And he was so happy, and I was so happy. It was a lot of work. So we get out, we go and do this job, and it only took us about an hour, and he goes, well, it's time to go home. And I looked at him and I said, well, we didn't make very much money today, did we? And he looked at me kind of funny. He goes, what do you mean? And I go, well, we only worked an hour. And he goes, well, we're going to get paid the whole day, dude. I said, this is the job for me. So, and I think he kind of liked me after that. But so throughout the years and numerous conversations with Wayne, the one thing I can say is I always walked away with a smile on my face. So that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff, Andy. So just to kind of cap this off, the later years, I had an opportunity, and I believe a number of these guys did too, to work with Wayne later on, maybe in different capacities. The fields that I managed, I was a little disappointed because most of what Wayne looked after was south of the river, south of the Wapiti. But every chance I got, if I could get him to help with an operational project, or we had some line crossings that needed managing, I would work very hard at getting him. And when it would work, he would always try and make it work. And I actually would postpone some jobs just so I'd have the opportunity to get him. And it was maybe for 2 reasons. One was because he did exceptional work. In fact, I would say that the work that he did for me every single time exceeded my expectations. And that was just Wayne. But it always gave us an opportunity to catch up. And I think I enjoyed that more than anything, was the time we spent together. I remember after I retired, He came by our farm office in the country there one day here a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And I said, stop by. I know you're busy. Stop by for a quick visit. Well, he was at our place from 9:30 till 1:30, just visiting. When we got together, it was like we just started up where we left off. I went through I had an accident a few years ago, very challenging, and Wayne and Marg both were just so encouraging. We stopped by their place one day, and that was a good day for us, for my wife and I. His work was always done safely and with common sense. And he had such a concern for the people that were working for him. Every night when they would leave site, it was mandatory that they get a hold of him when they got home. There no exceptions. And for all of us, I think I can speak for all of us here. We not only had a good working relationship with Wayne, but he was also our friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I reflected today with my wife Bridget about Wayne, and we realized that there's many common themes among everyone in this room and with Wayne, and one of them is his generosity, and one of them is his cold, calculated ability to put you in your place, of which I've been the recipient many, many times. When I was a young boy, there was a mall in Heritage, a mall in Edmonton called Heritage Mall. In that mall was a small Chinese restaurant, and that restaurant made the best dry garlic ribs, which I still have a passion for to this day. And I remember one time, Marg and Wayne, they had this old blue half truck, half car, and said, "Where do you want to go for dinner?" I said, "Well, I'd like dry ribs." So we went into this mall. He walked up, and we talk about Wayne's perfection or giving, being generous, and I said, "Well, what can I have?" My mom always said, "Don't ask for pop, ask for water. If they give you pop, it's a bonus." So I said, "Can I have some rice?" He says, "Rice, don't be a wuss. What do you want?" I said, "Dry ribs." So the lady gave one. He says, "We want 3. And he took those 3, and I ate them in the back. They were just bones flying out the window. That's when you could litter back in the day, bones. But that was Wayne. And you see by the picture today up here, he loved his boat. And our family, our 2 boys, Zach and Kyle, they lived on that boat. And as much as they wanted to wakeboard, as much as they wanted to wake surf, we did it until Wayne ran out of gas. He would go forever with those boys and Bridget and I. And then, Wayne, when he's with you on a one-on-one, one day he rented snowmobiles. And I don't know how to drive a snowmobile. We went out by Bear Creek somewhere, and I was driving, he was driving. We came to this creek where you come down and there's a little creek and then you have to pin it to get up. And I stopped. He said, "What's the matter?" I said, "My wife's going to kill me if I wreck this snowmobile." He's like, "Come on." I said, "No, I can't do this. I can't go across." He grabbed me, goes, "Don't be a wuss." I'm like, "My wife's going to kill me if I wreck this." So he got on and pinned it, and then I went across, and he's like, "I'm not going to tell Bridget, but you're just being a wuss." So that's Wayne. He has no problem saying what he feels, and I felt loved, I felt respected, and I actually learned a little bit about growing a backbone. And Wayne's a generous person, as we all know in this room. He's able and willing to give us hard counsel, and that's what Wayne does. And I was a benefactor of that, my family was a benefactor of that, and I'll never forget it, nor will my family. So, I would like to now introduce 2 very special people to the family, people that have had a very pivotal role in the Redlick family for the last 40 years, Roland Latondra and Vince Green.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Roland Latender.
That'd be Vince.
And this is Vince. And I'm glad we didn't get put together with those guys because I came in from Wayland too. Yeah, I met Wayne back in middle 80s, I guess. But before I go on here, there's a helmet back there in the back of the room. And I was thinking that writing, if you people could write a note or something of a memory, either something funny or something that you remember about him, if you could put it in there, because I'm thinking the family are going to have some times where they're going to sit and just ponder, and if they could just pull one of them out and look at it, it might give them something. So, thanks. So like I said, I met Wayne Wayland Oilfield, and he's been an active member of the oil patch for a lot of years. I remember him sending me out on a job to Sunset House out by Valley View. He sent me out with 3 helpers. None of them knew what a pipe wrench was, let alone a threader. And I had 5 tanks, a wellhead, and a separator to put together, and I had to work all the way through the night. It was a tough job. Needless to say, Wayne wasn't high on my friend list. So that was my first experience with him. But I started working with Wayne more in the mid-90s with Canadian Hunter. I was on the Wapiti. I was on the opposite side that Tim was. So we were always in competition. And I always kept Wayne because I didn't want him to go over there. He'd spend times doing all our well sites and header mods and compressor installations. He did that. And, things ramped up over time, but he did such a perfectionist job, like Tim said. When he was done, it was done right, and it was also level. He was that way. There was a team of us, like Clark Smith and Vince Green, myself, and Wayne. We would spend the whole time doing that. Like, I think when I started down there was only in the neighborhood of 30 wells or so, and when I left there was over 500. And I don't know how many compressors, but he installed them all. I remember leaving work one day, and he was behind me. He's always behind because he wants to make sure everyone gets ahead. And I was pulled over beside the road on this road called the Muddy Creek, and there was a well site, and there was about a 2-year-old grizzly bear sitting there, eating on clover, and I was sitting there taking pictures. And I never noticed, but Wayne pulled up behind me and got out of his truck and walked up beside the window. He never noticed the bear until he got to the window, and that bear was only from here, maybe just a little more than that wall away. He just looked, walked back to his truck, and I'm taking pictures of this bear watching him walk back to his truck. He was that way. He always made sure that the people that was with him were safe because he loved them. Because I could remember spending so much time talking to him. Like, I'd always come to wherever he was building site, where Vince and Clark were, or whatever, and he'd be talking about his family. It was his family, you could tell how much he loved his family. I don't know if he made it seem important to have family. Like, I always wanted to be. I actually looked up to Wayne for that because it made me think that family is ahead of work. You have to, and he loved his family. The first time he got sick was like about 15 years ago, and he never ever would complain about the pain or whatever he went through. I remember exactly when he told me it was at a compressor site. He said, I've got something going on and I'm going to need to go get some help. And he wouldn't complain about it. He'd still give the shirt off his back for you. I know when I got sick, I got cancer too. He was always there for me. He'd call me whenever I was getting my chemo or whatever. And of course, he would tell me what to do and what not to do. And he would say it with love because he'd say, you got to stay safe too. You got to stay away from people when you're doing this here chemo, he said, because you're susceptible. He was this dictionary of what to do and what not to do. I mean, I remember him always saying to me, Rolly, we only have to work another 20 years and we can retire. And he said that every year. So I cared for this guy with a big heart. I really did. He was this big guy with this big heart, with this big smile. That's what I'm going to remember about him. He became a good friend who always would give you a helping hand or offer you anything. I mean, I was moving or something once, and he said, well, I've got a trailer. Come over and get it. I mean, I'll miss him. I'm going to end with, say not in grief, he is no more, but live in thankfulness that he was.
Hello, everyone. I feel like I'm the token oil patch person because I never worked for Wayland at all, so I never got to experience all that. My name is Vince Green, and I worked with Wayne day in and day out for a number of years. He totally impacted my life. I didn't come up through the ranks of everyone else, but from my good friend Roland here, he got me a job at South Wapiti, and just keeping in, with the fact that I've been lucky my whole life, this just is another one of those things that fell into place that was meant to be. So you heard everyone talk about who Wayne is. I'm hoping to add a little bit to that. So I felt truly blessed to be a part of the Canadian Hunter family in South Wapiti. One thing about Wayne, he was the catalyst behind many things that happened. The whole group, the whole group shared in the successes we had, and the whole group also took responsibility for the things that didn't go so well. Wayne was one of those guys who absolutely cared about everyone on the job, and I felt like when I was introduced to the group shortly thereafter, I became a really good friend. And I think the reason why is that he really cared about everybody. And you've heard it said here time and time again. So, in fact, he was more like a brother to me than he was a coworker. It seemed like Wayne and I could get on the same level. We were always on the same page with everything that we did. There was no conflict. There was no big discussion. He was the tough guy doing all the heavy lifting, and I was the little guy coming up to sweep up afterwards. But it seemed to work well. I've had people tell me that they actually worked with Wayne less than 500 hours, and yet he was considered to be one of their best friends. So that'll give you an idea about who Wayne was. I felt exactly that way. And I knew how much he cared about people, because there was a time when I kind of broke away from the South Wapiti group and went on my own, did some other things. And I knew Wayne cared because I'd jump in my truck. There would be Wayne's phone number, a missed call, another missed call from Wayne. And the message would always be the same. He'd say, just calling you to check in, just want to make sure you're okay. and call me when you get a chance. So that was a very common thing. You know, and so it was a daily discussion for us, and the evolution of the discussion went from pretty much solely work to work and family. And then towards the end, it was not so much work, and it was about family, and it was about what the plans were for retirement. And so as time went on, there was more discussion about Penticton, the boat, and, you know, all of those things. So we were fortunate enough to talk about his time down there, and I always said, I'm going to come and visit you at your campsite. And lo and behold, about 4 years ago, I called them up. They were down there. We went out for a really nice dinner at one of the local wineries there. And he had plans of us coming the next day on the boat. So it was my family, my daughter and her husband, and my 2 granddaughters, and Janet and I, on the boat the next day. And I have to tell you the story about Wayne. My daughter was 2 at the time, and of course she had a life jacket on, and we were just sitting there floating out in the middle of the lake, and he says to Finley, he says, you can jump off the back of the swim grid if you like. And she's looking around, we're right out in the middle of the lake. We're not like on the edge of the pool where you could grab on. So she was watching him, and he kept saying it to her. Next thing you know, her dad is in the lake a little bit, and she's looking at him, and she turns and jumps into the lake with a life jacket on. And I'm not sure who was more proud, herself or Wayne was proud of her. And he spoke about it often. So the one thing, I was working with Wayne on his first bout of cancer. The one thing you will notice about Wayne is he never complained. You know, it was just the job at hand. And we're going to do whatever it took to get over this hurdle. But it needs to be mentioned about Marg and the family, because they were the rock behind Wayne, and, you know, Marg did all the work about finding the right oncologist, getting the right treatment, you know, monitoring, you know, the successes, and it was really, you know, he spoke about it often, that it was them that actually got him through that. And he came through amazingly. So we were, you know, given a few extra years. Then the second bout came, and, you know, still being friends, and he's still calling, and we could still visit him. The second had a few more challenges to it. But the one thing about Wayne, he never complained. It was like, this is the cards I've been dealt, this is the cards I'm playing. And even though there were some things from the first bout that still lingered on and made it difficult for him, he never complained. He never gave up hope, not on himself, not on anyone. He was truly the guy, you know, when you worry about, you know, what legacy do you leave behind? And I can truly say, for Wayne, he left a legacy that I would like to leave behind, if I could pick one. Hardworking, good citizen. So he's gone from us today, but I think we all agree that we will not forget. Thank you very much for your time.
I just want to say one more thing. Is the first thing that came to mind was, because Wayne instilled that in so much in me, was my first thought was, who's going to take care of Marg? Because that's what he always instilled, that he needed to take care of his wife. So he would not want you to be sad today either, because he's not that kind of guy. So thanks.
Well said, thank you. Well, we'll welcome up Marg. She has some thoughts to share, and I'm sure we're excited to hear them.
Hi, everyone. Unlike the guys, I have to read from a piece of paper because what I want to say, I'll probably end up forgetting. So hopefully I can do this. Firstly, I want to say a personal thank you to all of you for coming today and celebrating Wayne's life with the kids and I. Wayne never was one to draw attention to himself. If he were here today, which I think in some sort of way he is, he would have been honored to see all of you here. When the kids set up the GoFundMe account to try and help with expenses for the DC vaccine in the UK, the kids and I read to Wayne each and every donation that came in for him. He was totally overcome by the generosity of people and just the fact that people actually cared about him and that they wanted to actually help him. He would say to us very emotionally, "Really?" every time we told him another donation came in. He truly was a humble man and genuinely cared for everyone. There are a number of you out there that Wayne had a special relationship with, whether it was personal or through work. I hope that in my saying this that you know who you are out there and that you held a very special place in Wayne's life. Just know that Wayne valued every single conversation with you. I do want to make mention of the 4 people in Wayne's life that meant the world to him. Colin McIntosh, a friend that Wayne met in high school and maintained that friendship throughout their entire lives. Colin flew here from Winnipeg to be here today with Wayne. Peter Franz, a friend that Wayne met in his first days in the oil field and was Wayne's lunchtime buddy whenever Wayne could find the time to meet up with Pete. A shoulder for Wayne to lean on, you might say. Pete is also here today for Wayne. Rolly Latondra, another friend that Wayne met in his first days in the oil field. Even though at times they didn't work together, either Rolly would call Wayne or Wayne would call Rolly to catch up. And lastly, what some would say was Wayne's twin in the definition of personality, Vince Green. Another friend that Wayne met in the oil field and had several things in common over and above them holding a close friend bond with each other. I just want to note, Vince canceled a vacation to Mexico to be here for Wayne today. Please know that Wayne truly loved you guys. I also want to make mention of the 4 guys that did the Oilfield family tribute for Wayne: Tim, Brad, Jeff, and Andy. When Wayne first met these guys, he instantly felt a bond. They were his kids, and he was going to mentor them come hell or high water. He wanted them to learn, work hard, and excel in the oil field. Wayne kept in touch with these 4 guys throughout his entire oil field career. When one of them would get sick or have hardship in their life, he would worry about them. When one of them would get promoted, he would say to me, "Man, that was well-deserved." I want to say to the 4 of you, Wayne was so damn proud of you guys and where you all ended up in life. Thank you for taking the time to do the tribute to him. You know that he would have sat here and just smiled, not saying much, but inside he would have simply been so honored. Now for the hard part. Wayne and I shared 48 years together. He was my soulmate, but most of all, my best friend. When he was first diagnosed with his brain cancer in May, we cried together. And I said to him, "Wayne, we got this. I got you." He went through so much, yet he never ever gave up hope. He talked about still going to the UK 2 weeks before he passed away. He never complained once during the last 9 months. He was known by all the nurses in the hospital as the kind and gentle man in room 1208. From May 27th, when he was first diagnosed, to his last day before he passed away, I did my best to carry him through it all. I carried him in here today and will finally carry him home today where he wanted to be. A small part of him is with both of his kids, who he adored. His love for them was different in that whatever they felt, he felt. He had a bond with them that is hard to put into words. I spent the last 9 months with Wayne from early in the morning to late at night, and sometimes overnight stays at the hospital when I didn't want him to stay by himself. We had a lot of good discussions during it all, and he said to me many times, "Marg, I am so proud of the kids. Please let them know that I love them more than life itself." One of the main reasons for why I wanted to speak today was I wanted to leave a thought with everybody. Hopefully, when you guys leave here today, you'll ponder it and you'll take my advice. Now I'm sounding a little like Wayne, actually. Each and every day we get up every morning and go about our daily tasks. We will either wave goodbye to each other in haste or maybe grab a small hug or kiss, depending on whether we are running late or not. When we get home from our busy day, we may sometimes say, "How was your day?" or just get right into making supper or running out to do something personal for that evening. We are then exhausted after the day and say goodnight and hope for a good night's sleep because of our long day that we just had. At times, lots of times, we tend to get lost in those busy days and don't actually take the time to pause for a bit longer hug and say we love each other. My thought to you all today is this: maybe when we are getting or giving those hugs, just take an extra 10 seconds and hold on to that person. Cherish those extra seconds, because you will not realize how important those 10 seconds were until you are faced with not having that person in your life anymore. Through this long battle of ours, I've come to realize that you have no idea how much you actually love someone until you are faced with a void, or what some would say a huge hole in your life. I knew I loved Wayne, but did not realize how much until now. I would give anything to get those 10 seconds back. The important message here to take home is, it's not about the journey down the road. It's about the journey that's right in front of you. Thank you, everyone.
Well, this concludes the celebration of Wayne Redlick's life. Some announcements. For those of you, I think it was already mentioned, who would like to write a special note, notes and pens are at the back. Feel free to share your thoughts and drop the note into Wayne's skidoo helmet, which sounds funny, but that's probably what he would want. The family will read these over the coming days. You're welcome to come to the front and pay your respects as you see fit. Thirdly, after the reception, immediate family and close friends are welcome to the house. And lastly, coffee, tea, and treats are available at the back of the room. Please join in some time in celebration and fellowship in the memory of Wayne. On behalf of the family, thank you very much for everybody that came long distances. Thank you for everybody that came and spent some time celebrating Wayne's life. Good afternoon.
I've never been to Tulum.